President Biden stated in a published announcement that this agreement was reached after months of serious diplomacy by the United States, Egypt, and Qatar. Biden said, "This deal will lead to the cessation of hostilities in Gaza, an increase in humanitarian aid to Palestinian civilians who are in dire need, and the reunification of hostages with their families after more than 15 months of captivity." On May 31, 2024, Joe Biden proposed a ceasefire in Gaza and the release of hostages, which was unanimously approved by the United Nations Security Council. Biden noted that the current agreement not only results from intense pressure on the Hamas group and a shift in the regional balance following the ceasefire in Lebanon and the weakening of Iran, but also highlights American diplomacy. He stated, "I have never shied away from diplomacy to achieve this." During the attack on Israel on October 7, 2023, Hamas reportedly killed about 1,200 people and took approximately 250 others hostage, according to Israeli officials. Some hostages were released during a temporary ceasefire in November 2023, but 94 hostages remain in the custody of this group, with Israeli military estimates suggesting that 34 of them may have died. In a speech from the White House, Biden mentioned that this agreement will be implemented in 3 phases, with the first phase lasting 6 weeks, which includes a complete ceasefire, the withdrawal of Israeli forces from all densely populated areas of Gaza, and the release of several hostages from Hamas, including women, the elderly, and the injured. President Biden stated that Americans are among the hostages who will be released in the first phase. He added that in return, Israel will release hundreds of Palestinian prisoners from its jails. According to him, in the first phase, Palestinians will be able to return to their main areas. Reuters has reported that in the first phase, 33 hostages will be freed from Hamas captivity, all of whom are women, children, and men over the age of 50. Biden mentioned that during the initial 6-week phase, negotiations will begin for the implementation of the second phase, which includes a complete cessation of hostilities. He stated that the second phase will involve the release of the remaining hostages, a permanent ceasefire, and ultimately the complete withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza. The President of the United States said that if negotiations extend beyond 6 weeks, the ceasefire will be extended until the negotiations are concluded. According to Biden, the third phase will also include the return of the bodies of deceased hostages and the reconstruction of Gaza. Israel and Hamas reached an agreement for a ceasefire and the release of hostages just 4 days before the inauguration of Donald Trump, the President-elect of the United States. Trump had warned that if the hostages were not released by the time his administration began, Hamas would pay a heavy price. Trump wrote on the social media platform Truth Social on Wednesday, "We have reached a deal for the release of hostages in the Middle East. They will be released soon. Thank you." The permanence of the ceasefire, the withdrawal of Israeli troops from Gaza, and the scale of humanitarian aid for those in need in the Palestinian territories were major contentious issues in the negotiations. An Israeli official stated that the Israeli government would vote on this agreement on Thursday, and according to this source, it is expected that most ministers in the Israeli cabinet will approve it. Gideon Saar, Israel's foreign minister, cut short his pre-planned trip to Europe and stated that he returned to his country to participate in the cabinet vote. Following the announcement of this news, thousands of residents of Gaza, who have witnessed one of the deadliest wars for the past 15 months, took to the streets to celebrate and rejoice. Reporters from the French press agency reported from the city of Deir al-Balah and other cities in Gaza that people gathered in groups to celebrate and embraced each other. Representatives from Qatar, Egypt, and the United States had recently intensified their efforts for an agreement between Israel. Sources have told the French news agency that Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman bin Jassim Al Thani, the Prime Minister of Qatar, met with Israeli negotiators and Hamas representatives in his office on Wednesday prior to the agreement. In retaliation for Hamas attacks, Israeli forces have targeted Gaza with continuous air and ground assaults over the past 15 months, which, according to Palestinian officials, have resulted in over 46,700 deaths, the majority of whom are civilians, particularly women and children.